Welcome back to Dark Infidelity Stories. Before we jump in, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered how one choice can destroy decades of trust, love, and routine in an instant? Today's story isn't just shocking, it's heartbreaking. Sometimes people can't resist tearing down what's been carefully built over decades. Peaceful lives, stable families, happiness most spend a lifetime chasing. And that's exactly what happened here. A marriage of 32 years of shared memories, struggles, and quiet comfort, was shattered in a single moment. The betrayal? Unthinkable. The wife cheated with the neighbor. Devastated, he didn't just end the marriage quietly. He divorced her. And he made sure the entire town knew the truth. Stay with me because this isn't just a story about cheating. It's about trust broken in the most personal way, revenge in the smallest town, and the raw aftermath of a life flipped upside down. I'm 61 years old, male, and I was married to my wife Lena, 57, for 32 years. We raised 4 children, now grown with families of their own, and we have 3 grandchildren who light up our world whenever they visit. Our home is a farm, far from the noise, tucked in the arms of nature. Peace, quiet, and open fields, that's what we wanted for our retirement. About 10 years ago, after our youngest left for college, we decided to sell our family home in the suburbs. We bought a 40-acre farm in a remote town, complete with a modest farmhouse surrounded by endless fields. It was the life we had always dreamed of: retirement, serenity, and distance from city chaos. The first few months were strange. I had grown up on a farm until I was 10, so the transition came naturally. Lena, on the other hand, had never lived outside the city. Crickets at night, roosters at dawn, she called it monotonous. Same sky, same dirt road, same chores, she'd sigh. But there were moments when she delighted in the quiet, appreciating the fresh air, the calm, and the slower pace of life. Over time we found our rhythm. Mornings began with coffee on the porch. I tended crops, repaired fences, and checked on livestock. Lena managed the kitchen garden, cared for the chickens, and threw herself into community work at the church. Cooking, she always said, was her therapy. Afternoons were for naps, evenings for swinging on the porch, enjoying the peaceful life we had earned. Then about a year ago, new neighbors moved into the north. Their house had been empty for years after the previous owner passed away. They were younger than us, probably in their early 50s. Francis, the husband, worked remotely for some company. His wife homeschooled their teenage son, who had special needs. We met them a few weeks after they moved in. Polite, quiet, unassuming, and instantly Lena bonded with them. She began teaching their son piano, often leaning over the fence to chat with Francis or his wife, passing along baskets of eggs or jars of pickles. Harmless, neighborly gestures. Nothing unusual. In this town, helping your neighbors is just part of life. But then, subtle changes emerged. Lena started dressing differently, not provocative but clearly with more effort. She spent longer in front of the mirror before stepping into the garden or going over to teach piano. Her mood brightened, she hummed while cooking, laughed more. There was a lightness in her that hadn't been there for years. And it was always on weekends, particularly from Saturday evening to Sunday morning. She claimed it was church activities, social visits, catching up with people. I didn't question it. After 32 years of marriage, one learns to stop interrogating. Then came the Saturday morning that changed everything. I was plowing the field when I saw a car pulling out of the neighbor's driveway. Francis's wife was heading to the city with their son in the back. Francis waved. I waved back. Nothing unusual, except Lena's happiest weekends always coincided with these trips. Something clicked in my mind. At first I brushed it off. Paranoia, I told myself. But the pattern was undeniable. Every week, I noticed her leaning over the northern fence, talking to Francis, helping him with minor tasks, carrying tools, holding ladders, whatever it took to linger. Francis was younger than me, fit, easygoing, undeniably charming in a small-town way. I hated admitting it, but I could see why she enjoyed his company. Patterns became impossible to ignore. She'd bake for the community on Fridays, yet somehow those casseroles and pies ended up in Francis's hands. I remember one time seeing her return from the northern fields with a soft, secretive smile. I wanted to dismiss it, to believe I was imagining things. but the evidence kept piling up. Next Saturday, I stationed myself on the farthest side of our property. From there, I could see their house half a mile away. Francis's car pulled out again. Lena's happiness always mirrored these departures. I shut off the tractor, sat there, heart heavy, mind racing. Why would she risk everything? Why trade 32 years for this? I hated myself for doubting, yet the gnawing feeling persisted. Finally, around 11, I took the southern trail home. A rougher, longer route, but hidden from their sight. I don't know why I felt the need to conceal myself, but I did. When I arrived, her car was still outside. The house seemed normal. I called her name twice. Nothing. Upstairs, our bedroom door was ajar. The bathroom empty. I walked to the window facing the northern fence and peeked through the curtain. At first, there was nothing. Then, I saw Francis leaning by his window, glancing towards my tractor as if checking if I was watching. He closed the curtain and vanished. Minutes later, Lena sneaked out from the side of his house, half running, hair slightly messy, clothes not quite in order. She glanced around nervously before heading toward our house. I waited until her footsteps reached the stairs. When she saw me at the window, she froze. Pale, stammering, "You're home already? I thought you were in the south field." I didn't move, didn't speak. Calmly I asked, "The boy or his father?" Her silence confirmed everything. She whispered, barely audible, "We were just talking, nothing else." I said nothing. Walked past her, down the stairs, through the kitchen, and stormed out. I got in my truck, drove aimlessly, and ended up at the old bar in town. Same alley behind the main street. Same corner booth I used to retreat to when life felt overwhelming. I ordered whiskey after whiskey, staring at the fading ring Francis my glass left on the table, replaying the image of her sneaking out. Strangely, no anger. Only a weight in my chest, heavy and suffocating. I left around midnight, mind spinning, heart breaking, and the truth settling in like ice. The life I had known, the trust one had built, the love I had cherished for decades, it had been betrayed. I didn't want to go home that night. Instead, I found a cheap motel just a few blocks away and crashed, trying to escape the heaviness that had settled in my chest. The next morning, I drove back to the place I once called home, and there she was, sitting at the kitchen table, eyes swollen and red. The moment she saw me, she froze, unsure whether to run to me or hide. I walked right past her, silent, without a word. While I took a shower, she quietly prepared breakfast. I didn't touch it. I grabbed my cab and headed for the door. She whispered something behind me, maybe trying to start a conversation, but I didn't care to catch it. That Sunday, she didn't go to church. I spent the day out in the fields, pretending to work, but really just thinking about the kids, the house, the years of shared memories, the vows I had once believed in. A week passed and nothing changed. Days crawled like molasses, but the nights were unbearable. I cooked my own meals, washed the dishes, and slept in the garage. She tried small talk when I did chores, but I ignored her. I could see the panic in her eyes. She avoided the northern side of the property completely. No interactions with Francis. His distance was just as calculated, though his wife would wave sometimes, oblivious to the truth. Whenever Lena noticed, she'd look away, shift uncomfortably in her chair. And yet, sometimes I saw Francis playing with his son on her lawn, his wife bringing snacks. They appeared so perfect, so happy, a family in their little bubble, but only I knew the truth beneath the surface. I admit, part of me wanted to storm in and reveal everything to her, to warn her. But I hesitated, afraid of shattering a woman already carrying the weight of raising a special needs child. Even though it would have felt righteous, the consequences, they could have destroyed her. Saturday rolled around again. I saw her car pull away, her son waving from the passenger seat, just like every other week. Since then, Lena wandered the fields, pretending to check on chickens or the garden, restless, seeking attention. Perhaps she hoped I would notice. Perhaps she wanted to appear independent of him this time. But I didn't care. My decision was made. I was planning my exit. After 32 years of marriage, you're supposed to relax around someone. You're not supposed to feel like a detective, connecting dots in your own home. You're not being dramatic. You're not overreacting. You see what you see, and she knows exactly what she was doing. 32 years of loyalty, commitment, stability, and you deserve that in return. If she wanted a different life, she had a lifetime to communicate it. Instead, she created one behind your back. It's been a month since that Saturday. Silence has taken over. We move around each other like ghosts. Sometimes I catch her looking at me, eyes heavy, as if she wants to speak but cannot. Maybe she thinks I'll calm down. Meanwhile, I was quietly preparing, speaking to my lawyer, making every arrangement in careful, deliberate steps. Technically, the farm was mine. I had bought the land years ago, paid for construction, improvements, the mortgage, everything under my name. Lena had stood beside me at the closing, but her name wasn't on the deed. She'd never had a full-time job, always raising the children or contributing part-time to church and community work. Our marriage had been structured that way. She cared for home and family, I managed finances, property, and everything beyond. The lawyer laid out the options. Fight in court and risk months of ugly scrutiny, or arrange a clean settlement. Courts, he reminded me, focus on contributions, not just names on deeds. Cost, time, stress, involvement of the children, all weighed heavily. I wanted minimal disruption for them. The plan: Lena keeps the house, security for her and the kids. The farm, the land beyond the fenced garden, the tractors, equipment, that would be liquidated. Over 10 days we finalized details. Updated the will, changed account nominees, prepared property appraisals. Walking the fields with the assessor felt surreal. The farmhouse, apple orchard, chicken coop, walnut trees, everything now had a price. The numbers were higher than I expected. I listed the tractor, set fair prices for the mower and implements, canceled subscription services under my name, and ensured the sale proceeds would be transferred appropriately. Paperwork to legally transfer the house contents and address to Lena was ready. I moved my belongings into the garage, executing my plan efficiently. 2 weeks later, everything was in place. Saturday, a local farmer came and offered a fair price for the tractor. We closed the deal. Keys handed over. Monday, the tractor would be shipped away. I informed my lawyer. Sunday morning, after Lena left for church, I loaded the truck with packed boxes, left my keys on the table, and drove off. Before leaving, I did something I'd never imagined I'd do. I wrote a note for Francis's wife. The woman across your house is with your husband on Saturdays when you go to the city. I made over 100 copies and slipped them across their lawn. April air carried the papers across their property. It broke my heart to shatter someone else's perception of a perfect life, but the truth needed to be known. Crossing the town, I parked at the roadside and FaceTimed my children. 3 of them picked up. Sunday mornings weren't unusual for calls, but this one felt different. They asked about their mother, why I was calling from the roadside. I told them the truth. I was leaving because she broke our marriage vows. They were adults. They understood. The eldest asked hesitantly, "Are you sure, Dad? Could there be a misunderstanding?" I told him what I had seen. Lena leaving Francis's house while his wife was away. Silence followed, heavy with worry, concern for their mother, fear of change, the weight of seeing our family fractured. I reassured them. The lawyer would handle arrangements. Lena would have enough to live comfortably. Questions about where I was going? I said, "Not now. I need time." Tears came across the line, offers of help, offers of support. I thanked them, reassured them, and gave them my lawyer's number. My old number was no longer in use. I told the kids I wasn't cutting them out of my life, and that once I was ready, I'd reach out. Then I hung up, removed the old SIM, and slipped in a new one. Every contact, every official account, every bank record had already been updated with my new information. By the time my lawyer called later that evening, I was already 100 miles away, calm in the distance, letting the first chapter of my plan unfold. He said he had arrived at the house that afternoon. Lena looked startled the moment she saw him. He had just returned from church, and the day had already been full of surprises. The truck was gone. My keys were left on the table. The lawyer started calmly, outlining the division of assets. The farmland, the machinery, they were being sold. The proceeds would settle existing dues and be distributed according to the agreement. Then he handed her the ownership papers. The house, the garden, the pool, everything inside the fenced boundary. Her name was officially on the deed. She stared at the papers, eyes wide. "Where is he? Has he really left?" she asked, disbelief lacing her voice. My lawyer said yes. Earlier that morning I had left and requested no contact. The impact hit her like a storm. She broke down, shaking, murmuring that she never imagined I would actually leave. She thought I just needed time, that after a few days I'd calm down and we could talk. She whispered that I made a stupid mistake, and how one mistake in 32 years had shattered everything. My lawyer didn't respond emotionally. His job was only to deliver the facts and ensure she understood the legalities. She told him that on her way back from church, she saw the notes fluttering across fence lines and yards, even near the main street. Some had been crushed under tires. "It's everywhere," she said. "The whole town knows now. People are picking them up." And she added, exhausted and raw, that Francis's wife had been screaming all morning. I had crossed the line, yes, but it wasn't love. It wasn't even an affair. It was boredom, stupid, meaningless boredom. She hated the quiet monotony of life. Those few stolen moments with him gave her a glimpse of the self she thought she had lost. That was all it was. She asked my lawyer for my whereabouts, for details, but he refused. She grew angry. How could he just leave her like this? After all they had built together, she had abandoned her city, her work, her social life for me, and now I was gone without a word, leaving her in what she saw as a stupid, empty place. She said she felt blindsided and betrayed. She thought giving me space was the right approach, that I would eventually cool off. But she had no idea what I had planned. She admitted she couldn't stay in that house anymore. Every neighbor, every familiar face had caught wind of what had happened. She told the lawyer she had tried calling the kids, but they hadn't answered. When one finally picked up, she realized they already knew. It felt like the world had turned its back on her all at once. She claimed I made her look like a neglectful mother, a wife who never cared. She couldn't see that every action of mine had been deliberate, measured, and necessary. My lawyer left shortly after, and she didn't even walk him to the door. Her eyes stayed fixed on the fields where I worked, the life she had taken for granted. Even faint shouting from Francis's house could be heard from our porch. She called the lawyer again the next day, desperate for news of me. Apparently, the note had done its job too well. The whole town had caught wind. People had seen the papers scattered across roads, lawns, and fences. No names were needed. Everyone knew which two households it pointed to. There weren't that many women across the street in a small neighborhood of 6 families. The lawyer even overheard whispers at the local office. 2 clerks talking about how even the good ones fall. Some said Francis's wife had kicked him out. Others said Lena had packed and left. Some claimed both couples were on the verge of divorce. I listened quietly from a rented cabin 200 meters away, hearing the social ripples spread. Lena called him constantly, desperate for news, never leaving the house since Sunday. Blinds drawn. Calls from friends and the church group ignored. The fight next door with Francis's wife had been ugly, everyone knew it. Yet one thing was clear, the truth was out. She couldn't hide anymore. She told the lawyer she wanted to sell the house, that she couldn't stay where everyone now knew. I didn't interfere. Her choice. 2 days later, my eldest daughter called. She had spoken to Lena. Her voice was broken, tearful, apologetic. She wanted to know where I was. Maybe she hoped to convince me to return, at least to talk. I instructed the lawyer to thank her, assure her I was fine, and say I would call when ready, but I didn't. Not yet. According to the latest update, Lena quietly listed the house for sale. No public listing yet, but the word had spread. She was thinking about moving back to the city, closer to one of the kids, maybe finding part-time work. She sounded tired, defeated, overwhelmed. Some say revenge feels sweet. It doesn't. It only feels quiet. Yet there was a strange peace in knowing the truth was finally revealed. She couldn't hide it as just a mistake anymore. She hadn't believed I had it in me. That's why she was shocked. That's why she kept calling the lawyer, begging for explanations, trying to make sense of what she had set in motion. Her sudden remorse wasn't about love. It was about consequences, facing social judgment, personal humiliation, the reality of what she had destroyed. She called it a mistake. A few slips, Maybe. But sneaking out multiple Saturdays, lying about her whereabouts, dressing up, feeding a man's ego with casseroles and thyme, none of that is a mistake. That is a pattern. That is intent. So tell me, can repeated deception and betrayal ever be called just a mistake? Or is it always far more deliberate? If stories like this resonate with you, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for dark infidelity stories. Your support helps bring these real, raw stories to light. We'll see you in the next one.